Wearing Dong Zhuo's body back in his previous life, Dong Zhuo realized that the emperor wanted to kill him. The 18 feudal lords attacked him, and the gentry felt ashamed of him. Even my subordinates are half-hearted and ready to turn against me at any time. Everyone regards Dong Zhuo as a Han thief, in danger. Dong Zhuo sneered. The aristocratic families monopolize official positions, are they not Han thieves? The feudal lords forced the people to become serfs and cultivate their fields, were they not Han bandits? Those decaying trees on the great Han temple serve as officials, and animals feed on wealth. Are they not true Han thieves? He Dong Zhuo is going to kill through the world, use violent means to clear the world, create a peaceful and prosperous era, and achieve the true glory of the Han family. All of this starts with killing the 18 feudal lords through Hulao Pass. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Dressed as Dong Zhuo, 18 Marquises strike at the door. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In the first year of Chu Ping, in the 7th lunar month, the timing was scorching. Cao Cao, pretending to be the emperor, rose up and swore to suppress the Han bandit Dong Zhuo, causing a sudden change in the situation. The 18 feudal lords, each with great ambitions, commanded their troops and horses in a grand and magnificent manner, gathering in front of the Sisui Pass, with a magnificent momentum like a rainbow. Dong Zhuo urgently dispatched Hua Xiong with 50,000 infantry to rush to the Sisui Pass in the starry night. However, Hua Xiong unfortunately encountered Guan Yu, who had just shown his sharpness. After a cup of warm wine, Hua Xiong fell and the defense line of Sisui Pass was in danger. Faced with such a situation, Dong Zhuo had to make a decision and ordered Dong Chong and Jia Su to stay in Luoyang. I personally led a 150,000-strong army to Hulao Pass to confront the 18 feudal lords. In the conference hall, Dong Zhuo's civil and military officials gathered together to discuss military affairs. Dong Zhuo sat on the throne, and everyone saluted in unison, shouting to pay respects to the Prime Minister. Seeing everyone showing great respect to him, Dong Zhuo's heart was full of confusion. He has just traveled through his past life. Dong Zhuo, who comes from later memories, is well aware of his tragic ending. Being beaten and forced to move the capital, he ran to Chang'an. And then 2 years later, he was defeated and died. Being ripped open and burned with fat, I lit a sky lamp and died an unbearable death. I must rewrite this ending myself. However, I am facing an all-star lineup of 18 feudal lords, almost encompassing all the powerful forces of the late Han dynasty. Cao Cao, Yuan Shao, Liu Bei, Sun Jian. There are also Ma Tang, Gong Xuanzan, Yuan Shu, Tao Qian, and so on. But at this moment, in the conference hall, everyone remains silent, with few people speaking, let alone proposing any ingenious strategies. Generals such as Fan Chou, Zhang Ji, and others only know how to charge into battle. Li Ru, the son-in-law, was hesitant to speak up easily due to Dong Zhuo's unpredictable mood. His adopted son Lv Bu was watching with great ambition. Some loyal officials of the Han dynasty were forced to follow Dong Zhuo and could retaliate at any time. Internal and external troubles, perilous as a pile of eggs. As a Han thief who has already usurped the throne and is not tolerated by the world, a slight mistake can lead to irreparable harm. The most troublesome thing is, I haven't fully integrated my past life memories, so I'm not very familiar with the specific situation at present. Dong Zhuo stood up, ready to review his army. On the one hand, in order to restore past life memories and clarify one's true situation. On the other hand, according to the following historical trend, the Three British War against Liu Bu is about to take place. If Liu Bu is defeated, the morale of the coalition army will be greatly boosted, while the morale of the Western Liang army will plummet. I will be forced to relocate my capital and lose the initiative to compete for the world. Therefore, Dong Zhuo must now achieve victory in the first battle of Hulao Pass and defeat the morale of the coalition forces, so as to rewrite the historical trajectory and strive for a glimmer of vitality for oneself. Surrounded by the copper and iron walls of Hulao Pass, Dong Zhuo was surrounded by heavily armed warriors. Is this really the hero under my command? What caught Dong Zhuo's eye were heart-wrenching scenes. White-haired veterans, dressed in faded linen clothes, mingled with young children with delicate faces. They held rudimentary wooden weapons and their armor was just a few pieces of torn cloth pieced together. This situation has made Dong Zhuo, who was already restless, increasingly pessimistic about future battles. How can such a team withstand the fierce attacks of the 18 feudal lords? However, as Dong Zhuo's gaze shifted towards the towering city wall, a hint of comfort quietly surged into his heart. The city wall of Hulao Pass is as solid as a rock, made of bluestone and solid soil, reaching several meters high. It is filled with fully armed archers and shield-wielding soldiers. Rolling wood and stones pile up like small mountains, boiling oil in the brazier, ready to face enemy climbing attacks at any time. The soldiers on the city wall, in terms of physical strength and morale, are far superior to the group of elderly and young below. Most of them are dressed in hard leather armor, appearing well-trained. Dong Zhuo suddenly realized that the true elite power has been deployed here. Dong Zhuo's speculation was quickly verified. Although Dong Zhuo is notorious, he is highly respected by soldiers. Especially his personally led Xiliang iron cavalry, equipped with excellent equipment and unparalleled bravery, was loyal to Dong Zhuo. After Dong Zhuo's death, it was this group of Western Liang soldiers who avenged him and forced Wang Yun to commit suicide. Dong Zhuo stood on the city wall, overlooking the scenery outside the pass, and found that although there were many soldiers and horses from the 18 feudal lords, but compared to the cannon fodder under Dong Zhuo, the condition of his soldiers is not much better, and even worse. Although the other party also has a small amount of elite, the quantity is far less than Dong Zhuo's army. As for the cavalry that determines the outcome of ancient battlefields, the number of cavalry on Dong Zhuo's side is at least 3 times that of the opponent. Dong Zhuo felt a surge of confidence in his heart. No wonder Romance of the Three Kingdoms recorded that the 18 feudal lords were attacking Dong Zhuo, but even his hair was not injured, and the strength of both sides was not at the same level. Dong Zhuo gives orders. All generals listen to my orders, go out of the pass to face the enemy, and completely eliminate those scattered enemies. As soon as he finished speaking, he noticed the strange gazes from the generals and realized that his commands might have deviated again. Li Ru approached cautiously and whispered a reminder. Prime Minister, our original plan was for the Bingzhou army to take the lead and borrow the hands of rebels. Has the Prime Minister changed his strategy? Dong Zhuo suddenly realized that he had planned to use the power of the 18 feudal lords to eradicate the old Bingzhou tribe in Dingyuan, and even his own people were not spared. The ruthless methods used were astonishing. Li Ru saw that Dong Zhuo was silent, and then said softly. This was Mr. Jia Su's strategy before his departure. Didn't the Prime Minister once highly evaluate Mr. Jia Su's intelligence? Did the Prime Minister forget? Dong Zhuo felt a chill in his heart. Jia Su, a top strategist during the Three Kingdoms period, was famous for his cunning and cunning tactics. Especially skilled in assisting the powerful and cunning. The feudal lords outside the pass could no longer hold back, and a general leaped out from his horse, shouting loudly. I am here, General Mu Shun of the Shandong prefect. Dong Zhuo, the old thief, come and die quickly. Upon seeing the situation, Lu Bu was furious and bowed to Dong Zhuo, saying, Father, go and collect the head of the thief before the child and offer it to him. Let Lu Bu go to war. That can only repeat the mistakes of history. Dong Zhuo immediately rejected Lu Bu's proposal in his heart. However, if Lu Bu is not suitable for the expedition, who can take on this position? With a flash of thought, a candidate came to mind. Dong Zhuo laughed at himself and almost forgot about this person. Izi Feng Xian, you're just an ant. Why do you need to do it yourself? It will only tarnish your sharp Fangtian painting halberd in vain. Dong Zhuo complimented Lu Bu with clever words and expressions, and seeing his face showing pride, he immediately seized the opportunity to suggest. I heard that under your command, there are hidden dragons and crouching tigers. A fierce general named Zhang Liao, with the courtesy name Yuan, is well known outside. Why not let this manpower defeat the enemy chieftain? Lu Bu was momentarily shocked and responded, saying. Father Shuai, Zhang Liao was just a cavalry commander, from a humble background, without any prominent official titles. If you let him go to battle, if you lose, it may damage your reputation and become someone else's laughing stock. Dong Zhuo sighed inwardly at Lu Bu's broad-mindedness, still constrained by his views on social status, and found it difficult to achieve great things. He decided to disregard Lu Bu's objections and resolutely issue the order. Summon Zhang Liao to meet. Chapter 2. Promotes Zhang Liao to fight Zhang Fei, 3 heroes unable to fight. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Zhang Liao was summoned and his heroic demeanor caught Dong Zhuo's eye. Although Zhang Liao was dressed in ordinary cavalry armor, his imposing demeanor could not be concealed. Dong Zhuo's heart was filled with joy, and he knew that the top priority was to win the heart of this loyal and virtuous general who would be praised in later generations. Make it your personal shield to ensure your safety. He spoke to Zhang Liao. Zhang Liao, I have heard of your brave name for a long time. I would like to make an exception and promote you as a biased general. But the premise is that you need to defeat the enemy's leader to meet. Would you be willing to go? Zhang Liao didn't say much, rode his horse and wielded his sword, leading more than 10 riders to drive directly outside the pass. On the other side, Shun was ignorant and fearless, continuing to curse Dong Zhuo. Unexpectedly, the tiger prison pass suddenly opened and a row of light cavalry rushed out. He stared and saw that the leader was only a low-level commander. His anger burned, and he saw it as a great shame and called on Lu Bu to appear. At this moment, Zhang Liao was silently approaching. Shun proudly raised his gun, confident that he could easily defeat his opponent. How did he know that Zhang Liao was agile and easily dodged? Shun was shocked and uncertain. He intended to change his moves, but was overturned by a huge force in the air. In the end, he could only witness his headless body fall off his horse and land. Zhang Liao wielded his sword and fell, and Shun's death occurred on the spot. The interior of Hulao Pass was filled with joy, while the momentum of the coalition army was lackluster. Zhang Liao makes another bold statement. Who else dares to step forward and test their skills? Upon hearing the sound, Wuan Kingdom in Beihai stepped out and swung its 2 hammers straight towards Zhang Liao. He responded cautiously, learning from previous experiences, but only managed to support himself for more than 20 times before being cut off by Zhang Liao and retreated to his formation with a mournful cry. Subsequently, a brave warrior from Shanyang rushed to the battle and, before reporting his name, fell under Zhang Liao's sword. Zhang Liao won consecutive victories and received praise from the soldiers at Hulao Pass, and Dong Zhuo's reputation for being clever and discerning also spread far and wide. The coalition camp fell into silence, and everyone was intimidated by this unnamed hero who had emerged from afar. Zhang Liao was deeply grateful to Dong Zhuo for giving him the stage, while Lu Bu was intertwined with jealousy and resentment, extremely dissatisfied with Zhang Liao's dominance. Until Beiping prefect Gongsun Zan appeared on a white horse with a long spear, although his appearance was indistinguishable from afar, Dong Zhuo still noticed the arrival of this challenger. Gongsun Zan clashed with Zhang Liao, but they were unable to win. Zhang Liao took advantage of the victory and pursued him, intending to take it even further. At this moment, with a thunderous roar, a general waved his Zhangba snake spear and emerged from the coalition army, shouting. Zhang Liao, don't escape, Yan people, Zhang Fei is here. Dong Zhuo's heart was tense and he knew that Zhang Fei was a fierce general. Zhang Liao faced him off, and the outcome was difficult to predict. Zhang Fei, also known as EP1-10, is known for his ability to break through the yellow turban thief. He wields the Zhangba snake spear, which is powerful enough to startle ghosts and gods. He abandoned his position and traveled around the world due to dissatisfaction with the corrupt postal inspector. Upon hearing about the Chang'an incident, he volunteered to fight against the national bandits. Zhang Fei's angry eyes widened and he waved his snake spear, his voice like thunder. Zhang Liao was fearless and swung his big sword, engaging in a fierce battle with Zhang Fei. The battle lasted for a long time until the sun set in the west, and the two sides were still evenly matched. Liu Bei secretly pondered among the coalition forces and believed that if the battle between his third brother Zhang Fei and Zhang Liao continued, it would be detrimental to the morale of the coalition. He decided to ask his second brother Guan Yu to help him, in order to capture Zhang Liao in one fell swoop, establish a reputation for his future career, and establish connections with the powerful forces who lost their generals due to Zhang Liao. Liu Bei whispered to Guan Yu. "Second brother, our army has suffered consecutive defeats. Third brother and Zhang Liao have fought for a long time without a clear winner. If we retreat at this time, it will inevitably affect the morale of the coalition forces. In order to suppress Dong Zhuo's grand plan, don't be confined to fame. Quickly go and help third brother turn the tide of the war." Guan Yu couldn't resist it anymore, but he didn't want to bully the less with more and damage his reputation. Upon hearing Liu Bei's words, he could no longer restrain himself. He rode his horse and waved the heavy green dragon Yenhua blade, joining the battle group and fighting against Zhang Liao with Zhang Fei. Although Zhang Liao had excellent martial arts skills, he gradually fell behind in the face of the alliance of two heroes. Although Dong Zhuo couldn't see the visitor's face clearly as he closed the door, he knew from a distance that it was Guan Yu with a big beard. He quickly ordered Lv Bu to go and rescue Zhang Liao. At first, Lu Bu was reluctant and thought to himself why he had not been allowed to participate in the battle before, but now that Zhang Liao had already made a name for himself, he finally thought of him. Dong Zhuo saw Lu Bu's thoughts and provoked him, saying, "The bearded one is Guan Yu, who killed Hua Xiong. If my son is afraid, let's not go." Liu Bu was already eager for a battle, but was immediately excited by Dong Zhuo. He led his troops to rush out of the gate, and the red hair horse galloped like the wind, joining the battle in the blink of an eye. Chapter 3. Xiliang Iron Cavalry, kill the 18 Marquises. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon seeing the arrival of Lu Bu, Guan Yu abandoned Zhang Liao and turned to confront Lu Bu. Lu Bu felt extremely excited in the face of such a powerful opponent. He waved the Fang Tian Hua halberd and launched an attack like a tide, forcing Guan Yu to retreat step by step. At the same time, Zhang Liao was also able to catch his breath and engaged in a fierce battle with Zhang Fei again. Zhang Fei had to face both Zhang Liao, who had comparable strength, and take the time to assist Guan Yu, who was in danger, and was in a hurry. Upon seeing the situation, Liu Bei felt deeply sorry for his mistake. He originally intended to recall his two sworn brothers after killing Zhang Liao and let others challenge the invincible Lu Bu. However, Lu Bu's early appearance caught him off guard. Liu Bei was well aware that in order to achieve great success in the future, he must rely on his two sworn brothers. Faced with the crisis that his two sworn brothers were about to fall into the hands of Lu Bu and Zhang Liao, Liu Bei quickly came up with a solution. On the bloody battlefield of Hulao Xiongguan, Liu Bei, with his powerful and determined voice, inspired the morale of the united army. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why Dong Zhuo was able to act recklessly is entirely due to the pillar stone of Lu Bu. Now, Lu Bu is within reach. As long as we have the same mind and work together to eradicate it, Dong Zhuo will be like a bag of things, let us choose. After finishing his words, Liu Bei resolutely raised his whip, drove his horse and leaped out, taking the lead in breaking through the wind and leading the vanguard of the coalition army. As he walked, Liu Bei suddenly felt something unusual behind him. Looking back, he was shocked to find that there was no one accompanying him, and even his close friend Gong Xuanzan seemed to have not heard his voice. He remained silent as before. A chill pierced through Liu Bei's heart, and he knew very well that these allies were actually those who feared death. At a time of dilemma, Liu Bei understood that retreating at this moment would only become a laughing stock, and he would also lose his side with his two sworn brothers. So, Liu Bei risked everything and rushed towards the center of the battlefield. He shouted loudly and humbly challenged Liu Bu. "Liu Bu, take my sword." The double-edged sword curved in his hand and slashed towards Liu Bu's back in the air. Liu Bu disdained Liu Bei's move, pretended to be careless, and suddenly turned around, intending to end Liu Bei's provocation with a thunderous blow. At the same time, Zhang Fei was engaged in a fierce battle with Zhang Liao, while Guan Yu struggled to support him under the fierce attack of Liu Bu. Liu Bei seems to have entered a desperate situation, but his fate is turning at this moment. His warhorse suddenly stumbled, and Liu Bei fell off the horse. This fall not only allowed him to narrowly avoid Liu Bu's ultimate kill, but also inadvertently brushed his two swords lightly against the buttocks of the red rabbit horse. The horse roared in pain, carrying Liu Bu to flee the battlefield. Liu Bei's dramatic incident unexpectedly ignited the fighting spirit of the feudal lords. The war drums roared, and the feudal lords took advantage of the chaos to launch a general attack. Dong Zhuo was extremely anxious when he saw the situation. He disregarded the original strategy and urgently dispatched the Xiliang iron cavalry. These elites under Dong Zhuo's command rushed towards him like a torrent of steel. The Xiliang iron cavalry is well equipped and has high morale. It is usually regarded as a treasure by Dong Zhuo and rarely used. The armies of the feudal lords encountered such a formidable enemy for the first time, and were immediately overwhelmed. The Western Liang iron cavalry was invincible, and the defense line of the coalition army instantly collapsed. Liu Bu returned to the battlefield, burning with anger. No one dared to argue against his position, and the coalition soldiers were all trembling. The alliance of feudal lords was already unstable. Seeing the situation was in danger, with a command, all troops and horses retreated one after another, and Dong Zhuo's army pursued the victory. Those weak soldiers, unable to resist in the frontal conflict, became effective bait during the retreat. The Xiliang iron cavalry pursued them relentlessly until they chased the coalition army several tens of miles away, only to stop the pursuit under Dong Zhuo's command. This historic battle of Hulao Pass was originally a disadvantage for Dong Zhuo's army, but under Dong Zhuo's strategic planning, it reversed and won glory. The flank and logistics of the coalition forces were exposed, powerless to yield to the iron hooves of Dong Zhuo's army. Chapter 4. Treat soldiers well and by people's hearts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As the war had just subsided, Dong Zhuo found himself in a state of flattery, surrounded by a group of flatterers. Their praise for Dong Zhuo surged like a tide, and their magnificent words seemed to shake the mountains and rivers, leaving the stars dim. And Zhang Liao, the hero of the battle, seemed to have become air, with no one mentioning him. Dong Zhuo knew his fate well and despised this group of flattering people. He realized soberly that the top priority was to strengthen the relationship with Zhang Liao, and strive to repair Dong Zhuo's increasingly declining image, which is crucial for his survival in this chaotic world. He pushed away the flatterers around him, strode towards Zhang Liao, and solemnly declared, "Zhang Yuan, listen to me." Zhang Liao immediately tidied up his demeanor, the highest etiquette during the march, and humbly responded, "The end will come. Zhang Yuan, your bravery in killing the enemy has greatly boosted the morale of our army. I hereby appoint you as the general of the garrison and bestow 1,000 taels of gold upon you." Dong Zhuo is more inclined to let Zhang Liao become his personal guard, but he knows that Zhang Liao's temperament will not easily agree, so he temporarily presses this idea. I hope that in the future, someone as loyal and brave as Zhao Yun may become his bodyguard. Zhang Liao gratefully thanked Dong Zhuo, realizing that the glory of the general in charge of the garrison far exceeded the initial promise made by the partial general. He felt like he had met Bo Lu, who knew horses. However, the reputation of this bull. Zhang Liao's heart sank, unwilling to delve deeper. After the war, Lu Bu disappeared like the wind and sought medical treatment with his beloved Red Rabbit. Dong Zhuo pretended not to know about this and felt secretly pleased, saving some expenses. Dong Zhuo proposed, we should visit the wounded, sick, and prisoners. According to historical experience, treating prisoners of war and caring for soldiers can win the hearts of the people. This move made his subordinates uncertain, thinking that Dong Zhuo was talking nonsense due to illness. The joy of victory cannot conceal the cruelty of war. In that era dominated by cold weapons, every victory was accompanied by painful sacrifices. Dong Zhuo's army suffered heavy casualties, with a casualty report stating that 1,200 were killed and nearly 3,000 were injured. Dong Zhuo chose to visit the injured camp as his first stop in order to win people's hearts. The medical tent was set up outside the Hulao Pass, and before we arrived, the noise and mournful cries intertwined in our ears. Dong Zhuo furrowed his brows, initially thinking it was a groan of pain from the injured person. The truth only surfaced as it approached. A group of forced laborers are working hard to dig a huge pit, with countless wounded soldiers lying on the edge of the pit. An ominous premonition arose in Dong Zhuo's heart. He summoned the officer in charge of the excavation, who quickly approached and knelt down to salute. Pay respects to the Prime Minister and all the distinguished officials. Dong Zhuo asked directly. What's the use of this pit? Officer's response. Returning to the Prime Minister, these seriously injured soldiers have no hope of being cured. Following the old practice, I am preparing to bury them to avoid wasting military supplies. Dong Zhuo sternly questioned Li Ru. Whose idea? Li Ru trembled under Dong Zhuo's raging anger and replied softly. Report to the Prime Minister, it's your order. Dong Zhuo patted his forehead, cursing his previous heartlessness. Immediately, he issued a stern order. Starting from today, all wounded soldiers in our army, regardless of the severity of their injuries, must be treated with all their might and there must be no abandonment of treatment. Those who violate orders will be executed. Under the generous promise of Prime Minister Dong Zhuo, the wounded on the brink of despair experienced a tremendous transformation from shock to ecstasy. They first confirmed each other with skeptical eyes, and then found certainty in Dong Zhuo's unwavering gaze. Finally, with thunderous applause and a face intertwined with tears, he expressed endless gratitude and knelt down to the ground, kowtowing and thanking. Li Ru disguised his inner complexity with a bitter smile and quietly threw a tricky question to Dong Zhuo. Prime Minister, how should we arrange for soldiers who, even if they recover, will remain permanently disabled and unable to return to the battlefield? Dong Zhuo pondered for a moment, then declared with an unquestionable voice. Those who are disabled due to war will receive resettlement fees and be allocated 5 acres of fertile land to return to their hometowns for elderly care. Violators will be severely punished and implicated in their families. This decision is not only a correction of past mistakes, but also a crucial step for Dong Zhuo to reshape his image and win people's hearts. The officials present looked embarrassed and their hearts trembled, fully aware of the weight of this order. Immediately after, a shout of "Long live the Prime Minister" erupted in the crowd, quickly spreading and merging into a heart-shaking force. These voices are the most sincere yearning and recognition of soldiers in turbulent times, whether they were once seen as sacrificial soldiers or brave warriors of Xiliang, they all feel a sense of belonging at this moment due to Dong Zhuo's benevolent policies. At this moment, Dong Zhuo's reputation reversed. Dong Zhuo walked into the medical camp amidst a wave of cheers, where military doctors were busy and nervous, and wounded soldiers were queuing up in an orderly manner. Seeing Dong Zhuo, the military doctors stopped their work and saluted respectfully. Dong Zhuo gently lifted them one by one, expressing deep gratitude and pleading with them to give their all. This sincerity touched everyone present, and a soldier burst into tears, vowing lifelong loyalty, triggering a series of loyal vows. The civil servants stood by, surprised by Dong Zhuo's mobilization ability. Dong Zhuo keenly noticed the shortage of military medical resources, frowned slightly, and immediately instructed to recruit a wide range of doctors. At the same time, in order to avoid the issue of prisoners becoming a new one, Dong Zhuo mustered the courage to go to the prisoner of war camp. There, he witnessed the strong being selected, while the old and weak were forced to dig holes, and his heart had guessed its purpose. Faced with the hasty salute of the captured camp generals, Dong Zhuo directly waived the formalities and pointed to the key points. "What's going on with those excavated prisoners?" The general hesitated for a while before finally confessing. "Report to the Prime Minister that these old and weak prisoners are of little use, and should be dealt with as usual." Dong Zhuo waved his hand and interrupted, knowing the cruelty behind the norm. "Stop the excavation and gather all the prisoners. I have something to say." His words revealed an unquestionable determination. The generals were full of doubts, but they also quickly took action. Soon, thousands of prisoners gathered under the high platform in front of Dong Zhuo, surrounded by heavily guarded soldiers to prevent any unexpected events. Chapter 5. Following the example of future generations and having heart-to-heart conversations with captives. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Wei Lin, a young man from Shenyang. Along with his uncle, he was a subordinate of Yuan, serving as an infantry soldier. During the march of the troops, they often heard General Chen recount Dong Zhuo's atrocities, depicting him as a cruel ogre. Its appetite is astonishing, it requires swallowing the living brain for breakfast, beating heart for lunch, and drinking human blood for dinner. As for Dong Zhuo's night snack, no one knows because those witnesses have disappeared without a trace. Dong Zhuo's army was even more inhumane towards prisoners of war. They peeled off their skin to make war drums, dismantled their bones as torches, chopped up their bodies, and made dumplings, which became the food for Dong Zhuo's army. Being captured in Dong Zhuo's army seems more tragic than self-destruction. After the unfortunate defeat of the coalition army, Wei Lin made every effort to escape, but as an infantry soldier, how could he escape the pursuit of the Xiliang iron cavalry? In the chaotic battle, Wei Lin's shoulder was injured by the cavalry's blade, and he immediately lost consciousness. When he woke up again, he found himself a member of a prisoner of war camp. Fortunately, Wei Lin's uncle also survived, and they became prisoners as well. In the prisoner of war camp, the two of them hugged tightly, tears intertwined, and their hearts filled with fear for the future. Soon, Wei Lin's uncle was forced to dig his own grave due to his old age and weak physique, while Wei Lin temporarily saved his life due to his strong health. But Wei Lin knew that living was not a symbol of luck, and he might face a slave life even more tragic than livestock. Or become a delicious dish on Dong Zhuo's dining table. Dong Zhuo's image is chilling. He is 6 feet tall, but his waist circumference has reached 7 feet. His body is obese, like a huge meatball. His face was covered in messy beard, and his eyes were as huge as copper bells. Dong Zhuo's smile was even more frightening, as if only demons from hell could have such a smile. His gaze was cold and sharp, like a predator staring at its prey, ready to launch an attack at any moment. When Dong Zhuo arrived, he ordered the prisoners being excavated to be brought before him. Wei Lin's heart was filled with despair. He thought he was about to become Dong Zhuo's next sacrifice and was worried that he would become Dong Zhuo's food. During the waiting process, Wei Lin took the opportunity to approach his uncle and whispered whether he would be selected by Dong Zhuo. Uncle's answer was also filled with fear. He suggested that if chosen, one should choose to commit suicide, as the person being eaten is said to be unable to reincarnate. Suddenly, a soldier from Dong Zhuo's army sternly separated Wei Lin from his uncle, and ordered them to line up, as the Prime Minister is about to deliver a speech. Dong Zhuo struggled to climb up the temporary high platform, gasped for a moment, and then greeted the prisoners in his hoarse voice. The prisoners remained silent, filled with fear, but no one dared to speak. Dong Zhuo was obviously dissatisfied with this reaction, and his expression became even more ferocious, frightening some timid prisoners who lost control on the spot. After introducing himself, Dong Zhuo asked the prisoners if they missed their hometown. Still in silence, despite the prisoners silently answering yes, in their hearts, no one dared to speak. Dong Zhuo appeared somewhat impatient and casually pointed to a prisoner, demanding that he step forward. Unfortunately, it was Wei Lin who was selected. Wei Lin wet his pants on the spot. He wanted to bite his tongue and commit suicide, but his teeth kept trembling and he couldn't do it. In the end, he was dragged to Dong Zhuo by 2 soldiers, leaving a clear watermark. At this moment, an elderly prisoner rushed out, attempting to charge towards Dong Zhuo and requesting forgiveness from Wei Lin. This old man is exactly Wei Lin's uncle. He cried and begged Dong Zhuo to let Wei Lin go and be willing to become Dong Zhuo's food. Surprisingly, Dong Zhuo showed compassion and allowed Wei Lin's uncle to come and speak. Wei Lin's uncle knelt in front of Dong Zhuo and begged him to let Wei Lin go. A glimmer of hope flashed in Wei Lin's uncle's heart, speculating that Dong Zhuo might be inquiring about intelligence about the coalition army. So he immediately showed extreme obedience, kowtowing repeatedly and silently praying in his heart. If they can provide Dong Zhuo with the information he needs, perhaps his nephew can gain freedom. Under the demonstration effect of Uncle Wei Lin, the emotions of other prisoners were also ignited, and they eagerly expressed their willingness to cooperate. Some people even crowded forward, afraid of missing this sudden opportunity. Dong Zhuo struggled a lot to restore the order of the scene. Faced with this situation, Dong Zhuo did not show any displeasure, but smiled and asked the prisoners in a calm tone. Do you carry a longing for your hometown in your heart? This time, no one hesitated, they shouted in unison, I want to. Wei Lin, who was timid during the Lianping era, also mustered up courage and joined the shouting with a loud voice. Dong Zhuo nodded lightly with a satisfied expression on his face, and then he asked a new question. Since you are all so eager to return home, why did you choose to join the military in the first place? His eyes were burning with flames, staring closely at Wei Lin as if waiting for his answer. Chapter 6. Preferential treatment of prisoners and surrender of troops and horses. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Wei Lin felt an unprecedented courage, and although his voice was low, it was clear and firm. My uncle and I had no intention of becoming soldiers, but our family was poor and had no land to cultivate. Without joining the army, we had no means of livelihood. Dong Zhuo immediately asked if their family had never owned land, or if they had owned it before but eventually lost it. Wei Lin recalled his grandfather's story before his death that he once had 2 acres of thin farmland in his family, but it was later lost for unknown reasons. His uncle added that it was Chen Dashan from the village who reclaimed the land because his grandfather had borrowed 600 yuan from the Chen family and was unable to repay it due to illness, so the land was used to offset the debt. After hearing this, Dong Zhuo remained silent and turned his gaze to a young prisoner, asking about his experience. The child, who was around 15 years old, had tears in his eyes and a choked voice. He was originally herding cattle for Liao in the village, but later due to the conscription of the governor, Liao sent him to the governor's place to serve instead of his own family. The child's words were filled with longing for home, and he cried to express his deep longing for his parents. His emotions quickly infected the other children around him, and the prisoners soon heard cries. Other prisoners also told their stories one after another, most of whom were forced to join the army due to their livelihoods, and no one volunteered to join. Dong Zhuo raised his hand to signal everyone to be quiet. Although he was not as terrifying as the legend suggests, everyone's fear of him was deeply ingrained, and the scene quickly returned to calm. Dong Zhuo raised a profound question. You don't want to join the army, nor do you want to die on the battlefield, but in order to survive, it seems that this is the only way to go. But have you ever thought that when you grow old and have a family, would you still want to continue this kind of life? His words plunged the prisoners into contemplation, and Dong Zhuo's soldiers listened attentively. Dong Zhuo continued. On that day, you will still have to return to the land, but if there is no land, what should you do? He stared at the crowd, waiting for a response. A bold prisoner replied that he didn't know. Dong Zhuo smiled and revealed his plan. I have ordered that every soldier of our army can obtain 5 acres of fertile land after discharge, so they don't have to worry about their future life. This news excited the prisoners, and the bold prisoner quickly asked if he could join Dong Zhuo's army. Dong Zhuo happily agreed and immediately had someone bring him new clothes and food. The prisoners became excited again, and many expressed their willingness to become soldiers of Dong Zhuo. However, there are still some people who hold a wait-and-see attitude and have doubts about Dong Zhuo's past reputation. Dong Zhuo assured those who were still hesitating that he would not force them to join his own army. Those who are willing to go home will receive 1 or 2 silver coins in travel expenses and rations. Those who are willing to return to their original troops to continue fighting against Dong Zhuo can also leave freely, but must leave their weapons behind. The prisoners could hardly believe their ears, they were worried if it was a trap. In the end, Wei Lin mustered the courage to express his desire to go home. Without hesitation, Dong Zhuo ordered people to distribute silver and dry rations to him and let him go home. Wei Lin could hardly believe it was true, until he was holding the silver and food in his hand and finally convinced that he was not dreaming. He knelt down, kowtowed repeatedly, and wept with gratitude. At this moment, deafening cries rang out again from Hulao Pass, and people shouted, "Long live the Prime Minister," their voices filled with sincerity and gratitude. Dong Zhuo wiped the sweat off his forehead and exclaimed, saying so much was really tiring. He thought to himself that if he were to change the commander.in.chief, it might not be so difficult, at least 70% of the prisoners would be willing to stay. And now, it's less than 3 times in a row. The officials following Dong Zhuo were also discussing quietly, surprised by his behavior. Some people believe that he is trying to buy people's hearts, while others believe that he truly has compassion, while others suspect that he is just acting. But one thing they agree on. Dong Zhuo's performance today is vastly different from usual, whether it is a genuine change or a momentary fever. Chapter 7. Poisonous Scholar Jia Su, Wise and Clever. You are listening at novelfull.audio. May the heavens protect me, so that no one can disturb my thoughts at this moment. Let me plan alone, so as not to expose any flaws. Dong Zhuo silently prayed in his heart. Although the incident at Hulao Pass went smoothly today, Dong Zhuo was aware that his behavior had exceeded his past norm. He urgently sought a peaceful place to sort out his thoughts and prepare for possible changes in the future. It seems that fate has tricked people. Just as Dong Zhuo was eager to return to his residence as soon as possible, he had just arrived at the entrance of Dong Zhuo's army's political hall at Hulao Pass when a polite middle-aged scholar approached and bowed, saying, "The Prime Minister is wise, and today's actions will inevitably lead to the disintegration of the 18 feudal lords." Dong Zhuo was surprised to find that when the scholar approached, the guards not only did not stop him, but also saluted him. Obviously, the scholar's position in the military was extraordinary, but who was he? At this moment, Li Ru stepped forward to bow to the scholar and said, "Hello, Mr. Wenhe." The bachelor responded with a smile, but his gaze remained gentle on Dong Zhuo. Dong Zhuo suddenly became enlightened. It turned out that this scholar was Jia Su. During the Three Kingdoms period, he stood shoulder to shoulder with various wise men, and his depth of intelligence and ruthless methods were even better. Unfortunately, both under the leadership of Dong Zhuo and later under Zhang Xiu and Cao Cao, despite their increased respect, they did not receive enough trust and importance. If Dong Zhuo adopts Jia Su's strategy, based on his military strength and supplemented by Jia Su's ruthless strategies, the outcome of the 18 feudal lords may be very different. "Mr. You have finally arrived. I was about to send someone to invite you." Dong Zhuo realized that Jia Su would be the key support for his future pursuit of the world, so he quickly dismounted and affectionately grabbed Jia Su's hand, saying, "With Mr. Wen and you here, I have no worries." Jia Su withdrew his hand without showing any signs and said calmly, "The Prime Minister is highly praised. How can Jia Su be so virtuous? How dare he receive such praise?" Dong Zhuo noticed Jia Su's subtle actions, confirming the rumors of Jia Su's contempt for Dong Zhuo. But he is not Dong Zhuo, no matter what, he must tightly bind Jia Su to his own chariot, even if he cannot use it. For his own hegemonic strategy, he must not fall into the hands of others. Dong Zhuo's smile remained on his face, but a ripple had already risen in his heart. When he is too humble, too humble. This move was practiced perfectly during his school years. Even if he made a mistake, he would admit it in front of him and apologize. He had his own way behind the scenes, which not only kept his face but also achieved his goal. After some courtesy, Dong Zhuo invited Jia Su into the hall, and the other officials took their seats in order. Jia Su bowed and said, "The students were ordered by the younger brother of the Prime Minister, Dong Chong, to escort Yuan Wei, who was colluding with the enemy." Yuan Wei. He is the uncle of the rebel leader Yuan Shao and the current Grand Tutor. Dong Zhuo exclaimed in surprise. He vividly remembers that Dong Zhuo once, fearing that Yuan Wei and Yuan Shao would collude, destroyed his entire family before reaching Hulao Pass. How could Yuan Wei still exist? Is there an error in historical records? Exactly. Jia Su spoke in a calm tone. Yuan Wei's family attempted to escape Luoyang at night and were captured by the patrol army. They found a letter from him to Yuan Shu, the governor of Sichuan, containing details of Luoyang and intelligence about our army. General Dong Chong did not dare to make a decision without authorization and temporarily detained the Yuan Wei family, and sent me to escort them here, waiting for the Prime Minister's ruling. Amazing. Li Ru happily said, "Prime Minister, today we have achieved a great victory. Confucianism proposes to execute Yuan Wei before the banquet to boost military power. Send Yuan Wei's head to Yuan Shao again." Shaking his military morale at this point, Li Ru suddenly saw Dong Zhuo's gaze and stopped talking. Dong Zhuo thought to himself that as the chief civil servant of Dong Zhuo, Li Ru turned a blind eye to such a good opportunity. No wonder Dong Zhuo had a tragic ending. He looked at Jia Su and saw that his gaze was equally sharp as before. Dong Zhuo smiled and said, "Mr. Wen, what is your opinion?" Jia Su smiled and replied, "The Prime Minister has already reached a consensus in his heart. Why ask Jia Su again?" Dong Zhuo laughed heartily and thought to himself that Jia Su truly lived up to the wisdom of the three kingdoms. All his thoughts and ideas seemed to be within his grasp. Dong Zhuo and Jia Su had a perfect understanding, while others were like falling clouds and mist. However, fearing Dong Zhuo's authority, no one dared to ask. Dong Zhuo immediately ordered, "I will temporarily detain Yuan Wei and will not be treated harshly. Banquet to reward the three armies, obey me." Everyone responded. Chapter 8. Recruit Gao Shun and assault Yuan Shu. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The banquet was quickly prepared, and before Liu Bu arrived to take care of the red rabbit and horse, Dong Zhuo asked Zhang Liao to sit at the head of the generals, while Jia Su sat at the head of the civil officials. Although Li Ru was the head of the civil service, he had great admiration for Jia Su and gladly sat under him, while the others took their seats according to their respective positions. After a few rounds of drinking, Dong Zhuo stopped everyone's praise and raised his glass, saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have achieved a small victory today and have not yet dealt a heavy blow to the enemy. We hope that you can provide suggestions to plan for the future." Everyone was taken aback. In the past, discussions were all decided by Dong Zhuo and his confidants, but today he humbly seeks advice, and Dong Zhuo seems to have changed. Although everyone had doubts, they still felt gratified by Dong Zhuo's respect. At the banquet, everyone competed to offer suggestions, hoping to perform in front of Dong Zhuo. Some suggest pursuing victory without giving the coalition any breathing space, some proposed attacking Xishui Pass and joining forces with Li Yan and Guosi, some also suggest sticking to the tiger prison in Xishui, and waiting for the enemy's food to be depleted before retreating. Everyone expresses their own opinions and has unique strategies. The suggestion of a low-ranking general attracted Dong Zhuo. He was 7 feet tall, had a national face, and had a resolute temperament. He suggested launching a surprise attack on the coalition's food and supplies to cause chaos for the enemy. Dong Zhuo asked, "May I have your esteemed name?" The man replied loudly, "General Gao Shun, under the command of Marquis Yuan." Dong Zhuo almost laughed, Gao Shun. Brave and loyal coexisting, not only skilled in warfare, but also renowned for military governance in the Three Kingdoms. The trap he created with his own hands is unbeatable. Gao Shun was upright and suffered misfortune due to his loyalty to Lu Bu. How could he miss Dong Zhuo today? Dong Zhuo nodded with satisfaction and said, "General Gao's words are absolutely true, and the original intention is also the same. But General Gao knows where the provisions are located." "I don't know," Gao Shun said awkwardly. Li Ru laughed and said, "Little general, I don't know where the food and supplies are, but I'm launching a surprise attack. Do we have to search for them one by one?" Gao Shun blushed with embarrassment. Indeed, there was no definite information, and the surprise attack had little chance of success. He saw Zhang Liao become famous in the first battle, but he didn't meet his talent, so he said this just to attract Dong Zhuo's attention. Dong Zhuo stopped Li Ru's mockery with a smile and said sternly, "Although General Gao doesn't know, he already knew each other. Isn't it with Yuan Shu? It is written clearly in Romance of the Three Kingdoms." Everyone was shocked and looked at Dong Zhuo, but Jia Su was not surprised and smiled as he watched. Dong Zhuo caught Jia Su's expression and was worried about how to explain his knowledge of the coalition intelligence. He immediately threw the question to Jia Su and said, "Not only do I know, but Mr. Wenhe also knows. Mr. Wenhe, can you help everyone clarify their doubts?" Jia Su secretly sighed in his heart that Dong Zhuo had caused trouble for him. He had guessed, so there was no need to ask again. But the expectant gaze from the crowd made Jia Su, who had always been low-key, explain, "Yuan Shao has a narrow mind. Food and supplies are related to the life and death of the entire army. How could he hand them over to others? If Jia Su guesses well, the food and supplies should be at Yuan Shao's brother, the Shochuan prefect Yuan Shu." Dong Zhuo deeply admires Jia Su's insight. He is based on historical records, and Jia Su only knows through analysis, feeling guilty. With Jia Su's words, everyone suddenly felt a surge of praise for Dong Zhuo, comparing him to the reincarnation of Zhang Liang, the rebirth of Chen Ping, and the unbeaten god of war Wu Qi, who was no match. As for Jia Su, it seems that he realized it after being reminded by Prime Minister Kang. Dong Zhuo finally quelled the flattery trend and said to Gao Shun, "General Gao, the land of food and forage is known. Who do you think is suitable for the attackers?" Gao Shun's blood boiled and he immediately prostrated himself, saying, "Please grant the last general 1,000 cavalry. If you don't burn all the enemy's food, the last general is willing to apologize with death." "Okay." Dong Zhuo patted the table and the cups and plates shook. "Give you 3,000 cavalry and immediately attack Yuan Shu at night." After a moment's pause, he said, "When General Gao triumphs, I will appoint you as the general of the town army." Dong Zhuo made a promise to pave the way for Gao Shun's promotion. Unexpectedly, Gao Shun said, "Prime Minister, I will not seek promotion, only the matter of Prime Minister." "General Gao, but it doesn't matter, I will agree." Dong Zhuo thought to himself, "Is it forming a trapped camp? Speak quickly, I will definitely agree." However, Gao Shun's request was different. "Prime Minister, in order to prevent the enemy from taking food and grass, the people near Hulao Pass were all taken in. Now that the enemy has retreated, please allow the Prime Minister to return home and cultivate, so as to avoid the famine and poverty of the people. In the past, people may have criticized Gao Shun for meddling in his business, but today they all believe that Dong Zhuo has changed and see his intention to promote Gao Shun, so there is no one to speak. Without hesitation, Dong Zhuo said, "Li Ru, share the grain with the people and let them go home." Chapter 9. Capturing Yuan Shu alive, Zhao Yun appears. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Late at night, inside the Yuan Shu military camp in Liangdong, the gate was tightly closed, and the sentries were densely distributed. The layers of horses and deer antlers were tightly connected, surrounded by wide and deep trenches. Patrol soldiers shuttled back and forth along the fence, and the flames occasionally illuminated every hidden corner. This is the heroic teacher under Yuan Shu, the governor of Sichuan, with strict discipline and a reputation that lives up to its reputation. However, in this seemingly impregnable camp, there are faint traces of the gentle singing of women. The cold wind was piercing, and patrolling soldier Zhang San shrank his neck, his gaze casting a hint of envy towards the place where the singing came from. He grinned and whispered to his companions. Being a general is truly joyful. A bag of flour can exchange for two beautiful women like flowers and jade. If I could embrace them, I would be willing to die even overnight. The soldier accompanying him pursed his lips, full of disdain. Just rely on you. In the next life. Besides, as a general, you still have to rely on hard work. If General Zhang were not my lord's brother-in-law, he wouldn't dare to privately sell military provisions, let alone exchange them for beauties. General Ji has no blood relationship with the lord, so he naturally dares not act like this. Zhang San wanted to argue, but was interrupted by the patrol captain. Zhang San and Li Si are not allowed to chat during patrols. After another round of patrols, I'll switch shifts. After returning to camp, I'll let you talk. Zhang San had to close his mouth and closely follow the captain. The pain in his buttocks from yesterday reminded him not to repeat the same mistake. During the journey, Zhang San suddenly realized something was wrong. Li Si's footsteps were always accompanied by heavy breathing on weekdays, but at this moment, they were surprisingly quiet. Just as he was about to turn around, a big hand suddenly covered his mouth. A cold light flashed, and the sharp dagger lightly brushed against him, causing Zhang San to fall silently to the ground. Immediately after, another dark shadow silently dealt with the patrol captain, and the entire patrol team was instantly cleaned up. 10 people in black participated in this raid. They quickly removed the obstacles next to the fence, and one person lit a fire and gestured towards the outside of the village. Several thick ropes immediately wrapped around the fence outside the village. When pulled down, the fence collapsed with a loud bang, and countless cavalry took advantage of the situation to rush into the camp. When the campsite's flames engulfed the sky, the alarm slowly sounded. Enemy attack. But it was too late. The barracks were on fire everywhere, and the granaries that the coalition relied on for survival were blazing with flames. The piercing night wind fueled the fire, and in an instant, the raging fire illuminated Yuan Shu's camp. After Gao Shun succeeded, he was not satisfied. While commanding cavalry to scatter and attack, he personally led an elite army to directly attack the central army, with a clear target. Yuan Shu. Yuan Shu was sleeping soundly with the beautiful woman presented by his brother-in-law. Upon hearing the news, he was startled to wake up. His first thought was not to protect the food and forage, but to dispatch his own soldiers to defend himself. Unexpectedly, a team of cavalry like wolves and tigers rushed forward. Yuan Shu's personal soldiers were adept at oppressing the people on weekdays, but were vulnerable to the elite of Xiliang. Soon, the personal soldiers scattered and the Western Liang cavalry broke into Yuan Shu's camp. Who is that? Show up quickly. Gao Shun walked into the camp and noticed someone hiding under the bedding. If you don't come out again, you'll be shot to death. Don't. A trembling voice came from the bed. I am Yuan Shu, the prefect of Sichuan. Gao Shun felt great joy in his heart. He only wanted to tentatively attack the central army, but unexpectedly, he was able to capture Yuan Shu alive. This was a great achievement. It turns out to be the Grand Preceptor. The Prime Minister has invited you, and I hope you will appreciate your company. Yuan Shu was frightened to the point of losing his soul. If I don't go, Dong Zhuo will definitely kill me. At the end of the sentence, with a tearful tone, heroes, spare my life. The fourth generation and third Duke of the Yuan family will surely receive generous rewards. Without hesitation, Gao Shun waved his hand as the soldiers dragged Yuan Shu out of his bed. However, with this delay, everyone was taken aback and then burst into laughter. It turned out that Yuan Shu was naked, holding only a woman who was also disheveled. A cavalry soldier's gaze lingered on the woman, unable to turn back. General Gao, this woman is quite beautiful. Why don't we bring her with us and offer it to the Prime Minister? The Prime Minister loves such beauties the most. Stop talking nonsense. Gao Shun sternly rebuked. The Prime Minister is concerned about the people of the country, and rumors of his cruelty from the outside world are actually a misunderstanding. How can we tarnish the reputation of the Prime Minister? Tie up Yuan Shu and release the woman. Liang Dong's flames surged into the sky, and when Yuan Shao heard the news outside the Sisui Pass, his face suddenly changed. He quickly gathered the lords to discuss strategies to rescue Yuan Shu. During the day, the 8 feudal lords including Gong Sun Zan and Yuan Yi suffered setbacks, and the morale of the alliance was scattered. The crisis in the granary was imminent, and everyone felt insecure. They were all discouraged by the rescue of Yuan Shu. Although Yuan Shao was the leader of the alliance, his relationship with Yuan Shu was weak and he was unwilling to sacrifice his precious troops. In the end, he turned his gaze to Cao Cao and said, him.The, the leader of this alliance orders you to lead your subordinates to fully support Liangdong and ensure that food and supplies are not lost. Cao Cao, a wise and heroic figure in turbulent times, naturally understood the danger of this trip. Leader of the alliance, Dong Zhuo is cunning and will set up an ambush along the way for our reinforcements, waiting for exhaustion. The current plan is to seize the opportunity of Dong Zhuo's main army not meeting with the defenders of Sisui Pass, seize Sisui with one go, seize the food and forage, and then directly approach Luoyang and cut off its food supply route. Although the anti-Dong coalition army has launched multiple attacks on Sisui Pass, the various feudal lords seem to be at odds with each other, observing each other. In addition, the defending general Su Renjiying is brave and skilled in planning, and he cannot defend himself. The coalition army has repeatedly failed to attack. Yuan Shao was furious upon hearing this. him.The, the leader of our alliance ordered you to save food, but you delayed and declined. Attack Sisui Pass. If there is no food, how can the army continue? If you don't save, I will go save myself. Despite everyone's dissuasion, Yuan Shao led 50,000 elite soldiers to rush to Liangdong. Halfway through, the terrain was steep and the trees were dense. Yuan Shao ordered his troops to pause and sent scouts to investigate. After a moment, the scout reported. Wufu. Yuan Shao was eager for food and supplies, without much consideration, and ordered to move forward. Unexpectedly, as soon as the army entered the forest, the sound of killing around immediately shook the sky, and flames ignited everywhere. The army emerged from the oblique spikes, and the leader shouted loudly. Zhang Wen Yuan is here, and Yuan Shao will capture him with his hands tied. Yuan Shao exclaimed in surprise. If there is an ambush. Urgently ordered the withdrawal of troops, but the surrounding sea of fire, soldiers fleeing, trampling on each other, and suffering heavy casualties. Under the cover of personal guards, Yuan Shao charged left and right, unable to break free from the encirclement, and was unconsciously surrounded by Zhang Liao. In a moment of despair, a white-robed young general rushed like an electric current to. Don't worry, my lord. Zhao Yun is also here. Yuan Shao looked closely and saw that it was Zhao Yun, a newly appointed assistant general under his command, with the courtesy name Xiliang and the name Changshan Jinding. Zhang Liao was about to capture Yuan Shao alive, but Zhao Yun emerged from afar, fearless and invincible, and unstoppable, making it difficult for Western Liang Iron Cavalry to stop him. Zhang Liao was furious and left Yuan Shao to take Zhao Yun directly. The two clashed, but Zhang Liao fell off his horse and Zhao Yun was unharmed. Dong Zhuo was shocked and quickly rescued Zhang Liao. Zhao Yun took the opportunity to rescue Yuan Shao and break through the encirclement. Just out of danger, another army arrived and Yuan Shao was in despair. Zhao Yun insisted. "Don't worry, my lord. I swear to ensure your safety." But Yuan Ben Chu. Unexpectedly, Cao Cao led his army to aid. Yuan Shao was overjoyed and the two armies merged, eventually escaping the sea of fire. However, Yuan Shao's 50,000 troops and horses were left with only a few thousand. After getting out of trouble, Yuan Shao wanted to thank Cao Cao. Suddenly, he heard the sound of artillery and another army emerged. The leader was riding a red rabbit, holding a square sky painting halberd, and it was Lu Bu. Lu Bu drank loudly. Where did Yuan Shao escape? Yuan Shao is almost on the verge of collapse, and everyone knows the name of LV Bu. Cao Cao urgently dispatched various generals to confront Lu Bu, while Xiahou Dun, Xiahou Yuan, Cao Ren, Cao Hong, Li Dian, and Lu Jin surrounded him. Yuan Shao whispered to Zhao Yun. "Xiliang, let Meng-De resist. Please help me return to the camp for help." Zhao Yun does not comply. "Lord, the Chao army has come for us, abandoning allies and only seeking self-protection. How can we stand in this world?" Yuan Shao was extremely angry and wanted to slay Zhao Yun, but Lu Bu's army was approaching, so he had to lead the remaining troops to break through alone, disregarding the safety of Cao Cao and Zhao Yun. Yuan Shao fought desperately and was about to escape when an arrow suddenly hit his throat. At this moment, Zhao Yun raised his spear and the arrow landed. Yuan Shao's soul was startled and he felt inexplicably grateful. Zhao Yun silently escorted Yuan Shao to a safe place, bowed 3 times, and before Yuan Shao could speak, Zhao Yun had already turned over and returned to the battlefield alone, rescuing Cao Cao's army from danger. Zhao Yun returned to the mountain like a fierce tiger, invincible, blood-stained in his robe, and the enemy was frightened by the news. Before the formation of Lu Bu, the 6 generals of Cao Cao were exhausted, but Lu Bu was adept at handling it. Zhao Yun drank loudly. "LV Bu, do you dare to have a showdown with Zhao Yun?" Chapter 10. The Battle of Lu Bu and Zhao Yun. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. What are you saying? Dong Zhuo grabbed the messenger's collar and roared loudly like a bell. General Zhang Liao was severely injured and unconscious. How dare you speak recklessly? Zhang Liao was a leading general during the Three Kingdoms period. If anyone could inflict a heavy blow on him, he would be exceptionally talented. At this moment, his face was ferocious, like an ogre crawling out of the depths of hell. He was so scared that the messenger's legs were weak and he couldn't kneel. He could only cry for mercy. The Prime Minister spared his life, and every word of the villain was true. General Zhang was seriously injured and unconscious. Upon seeing this, Jia Su quickly pulled Dong Zhuo apart and said with warmth. General Zhang would be deeply moved if he learned that the Prime Minister was so concerned about his subordinates. But the Prime Minister should ask him to elaborate on where the divine could harm General Zhang. Dong Zhuo realized his loss of composure and changed his tone, saying softly. It's okay, this is just a matter of worry and chaos, not blaming you. Please explain the details in detail. The messenger calmed down and half knelt to report. Report to the Prime Minister. General Zhang led his troops to set up an ambush and successfully surrounded the enemy leader Yuan Shao. Victory was just around the corner when a young general in white suddenly appeared. In just one turn, General Zhang was shot down from his horse. If it weren't for everyone's timely rescue, General Zhang might have been in danger of his life. The young general in white took the opportunity to rescue Yuan Shao. Dong Zhuo's eyes were wide open, almost jumping out of his eyes. It was unbelievable to defeat Zhang Liao, but he still managed to win with just one move. This person is unbelievable. Even the highly acclaimed Guan Yu in later generations may find it difficult to achieve this feat. Who exactly is this person? Wait, General in White. General in White. Dong Zhuo was filled with surprise in his heart, and once again picked up the messenger. He urgently asked. Say, does the white-clothed general call himself Zhao Yun and Zhao Zilong? The messenger nodded slightly and said, the Prime Minister is wise. That young general indeed claims to be Zhao Yun, but he did not mention the name Zhao Zilong. Ha ha ha. Dong Zhuo burst into laughter. Zhao Yun, my chief general and close captain, you have finally appeared. Someone, take good care of Zhang when Yuan, and the other soldiers and horses, follow the Prime Minister to bring Zhao Yun back. My lord. Jian Yong ran back to Liu Bei's camp panting heavily. We have found out that the person who rescued the Marquis of Xiliang was a young man named Zhao Yun. He shot Zhang Liao, who had broken through several generals, and escorted the Marquis of Xiliang to break through the encirclement. Later, he broke through the enemy line alone, probably to rescue Cao Cao. Liu Bei exclaimed in surprise. A single shot overturned Zhang Liao, fearless and unparalleled, a lone savior, loyal and steadfast, escaping danger and returning, rescuing allies, both benevolent and righteous. There is such a combination of loyalty, bravery, and benevolence in the world. Liu Bei noticed Guan Yu's displeased expression and immediately added. I didn't expect such a hero besides my second and third brothers. Upon hearing his elder brother's praise, Guan Yu's face softened and he said with rare approval. This person is indeed a hero. My elder brother is determined to revive the Han dynasty. With his assistance, he would definitely be able to add wings like a tiger. What are you hesitating about? Let's go save him now. Zhang Fei shouted loudly. Old Zhang and Zhang Liao have fought against him, and their strength is not inferior to old Zhang. Old Zhang wants to see who can take a shot at Zhang Liao. Let's see if he can take a shot at me, old Zhang. Liu Bei pondered for a moment. Although Dong Zhuo's army was large, they needed to divide their troops to defend Hulao Pass. They also sent a portion to attack Yuan Shu's camp, and then arranged for troops to ambush Yuan Shao. Finally, they attacked Cao Cao. After the battle with Cao Cao, their troops would inevitably be depleted. If they went there at this time, they should not suffer significant losses. Okay, two wise brothers, let's set off immediately to rescue Zhao Yun. Zhao Yun rode his horse against the current and witnessed Lu Bu defeating 6 generals with one enemy. The 6 generals of Chao Ying were still suppressed, and Cao Cao was firmly trapped on the battlefield. Faced with such a fierce enemy, Zhao Yun's blood boiled and he drove his horse straight towards Lu Bu, shouting loudly. Liu Bu, a traitor, do you have the courage to confront me? Zhao Yun head on. Liu Bu glanced sideways and saw a handsome young man riding a white horse galloping towards him in the firelight. He gently waved the Fang Tianhua halberd, forcing the 6 generals to temporarily withdraw, and a contemptuous smile curved his lips. Come on, Lord Wen, I'll accompany you in a sword dance. Zhao Yun was furious and plunged his horse straight into Liu Bu's chest. This shot was incredibly rapid, and he was confident that no one could match his speed. Even if his opponent was Liu Bu, who claimed to be the best in the world, he would be forced to deal with it. Unexpectedly, Liu Bu also counterattacked with lightning speed, and his spear and halberd collided. The roar was deafening, and both of them took a few steps back, trembling with fear. Liu Bu felt a chill in his heart. Since his debut, he has never encountered such a situation. Even the strong man with a red face and long beard today has not brought him such pressure. This seemingly weak young man has strength beyond imagination. Surprised, more than anything else, was the surging fighting spirit. Lu Bu urged the horse forward. What a young man, he's quite skilled. Take me down. Zhao Yun knew his own strength was slightly inferior, but his best skill was calm analysis and never panicked. Taking advantage of his speed advantage, he used his ultimate skill of 100 birds facing the phoenix to stab 101 shots in one go, suppressing power with speed. Zhao Yun's spear shadow is like weaving, his illness is like lightning, and each shot points towards the vital point of Lu Bu. Lu Bu restrained his contempt and focused on defending against this unprecedented enemy. Zhao Yun's marksmanship is like flowing clouds and water, everywhere. Lu Bu's defense is as solid as a rock, without any leakage. Zhao Yun's attack was as wild as a hurricane rainstorm, while Lu Bu's defense was as steady as a mainstay, standing still despite the storm. One is an unstoppable spear, and the other is an unbreakable shield. Cao Cao was stunned as he watched from the side, forgetting to be in the midst of swords and knives. Gradually, an idea sprouted in his heart. If one of these two people can be obtained, who in the world can be defeated? At least among the 18 feudal lords, no one can match them. At this moment, Lu Bu shouted loudly and forcefully pushed away Zhao Yun's attack. Who is coming? Facing opponents like Zhao Yun, Lu Bu asked for the name of an enemy general on the battlefield for the first time. Zhao Yun gasped for breath and replied. I am Zhao Zilong from Changshan. Lu Bu, do you still remember? Although 100 birds are fast to face the phoenix, it consumes a huge amount of effort. Coupled with continuous combat, Zhao Yun has become exhausted. Lu Bu also expended a considerable amount of effort, although the 6 generals of Chao Ying were unable to harm him, they also consumed his physical strength. He held back his breath and said. Zhao Yun, I have taken note. You should be proud, you are the first enemy who asked me to ask for my name voluntarily, and the first opponent who forced me, Lv Fengxian, to give it my all. After speaking, Lu Bu patted the red rabbit and horse, and Fang Tian drew a halberd with the wind and arrived. Zhao Yun, goodbye now. As soon as Lu Bu finished speaking, Zhao Yun had a premonition that his ultimate battle was imminent, and he was completely alert. Seeing that Lu Bu's move had already been executed, leaving no room for retreat, Zhao Yun also exerted all his strength to face this unparalleled blow. Bang! The loud noise was deafening, and Lu Bu and the red hair horse retreated together. Fang Tianhua's halberd almost slipped away. Zhao Yun's white horse remained motionless, followed by bleeding from his 7 orifices and slowly falling to the ground. Zhao Yun's chest was filled with qi and blood seeped from his tiger's mouth. Lu Bu closed his eyes and adjusted his breath. After his breath calmed down, he opened his eyes and said. Good kid, I'm the number 1 in the world, so you're the second one. Change horses and fight again. Cao Cao saw that Zhao Yun was slightly inferior to Lu Bu, and felt a sense of regret for his talent, unwilling to let Zhao Yun go into danger again. He said. Marquis Lv1, both you and Xiliang are tired, and with the night already deep, it's better to fight again tomorrow. Turning to Zhao Yun again. Xiliang, the horse I am riding is called Claw Huang Fei Dian. Although it is not as good as Red Rabbit, it is also extraordinary. Today I will give it to you and compete with Lord Wen tomorrow. Lu Bu looked around arrogantly and saw that the order of the Chao army was gradually stabilizing. It was impossible to achieve a complete victory tonight, but the goal of weakening the enemy's morale had been achieved. Just about to agree, but a thunderous voice rang out. Don't escape, servants with 3 surnames. Zhang Fei from Yan is here. A small army suddenly emerged, led by 3 people. One person had big ears, hands above their knees, one person had long whiskers, and their face was as red as blood. The other person had Yan's forehead and eyes, and their face was as red as charcoal. They were the surprise trio of Liu Bei, Guan Yu, and Zhang Fei in the chaotic world. Liu Bu was burning with anger and was about to step forward when another hoarse voice came. "My son, please rest assured that I have come as a father." A large army emerged like a tide, surrounding the armies of Chao and Lu in groups. Surrounded by a group of well-equipped Xiliang iron cavalry, a man with a height of less than 6 feet but a waist circumference far exceeding 7 feet, resembling a meatball, slowly rode towards him. It was the tyrant Dong Zhuo and Dong Zhuo.